It's time for the playlist party with your host, Gregg Bissonette.
Hey everybody, how are you? It's Gregg Bissonette, and I'm honored to be on the playlist party here for DW. Before I even tell you anything about the songs we're going to get into today and the drummers we're going to talk about, I want to tell you how I first became a DW double pedal endorsee in 82, not 1982, 1882. That's how old I am, 1882. Anyway, California wasn't even a state then, I don't think. Aaron, was it a state yet? No, we have three of my great drummer friends here. We have Jules Thomas, Kevin Majorino, and Aaron Rudin. They're all helping me fly this spaceship today. But I think 1895 California became a state. I don't know, but maybe one of our smart drummers chiming in can Google that and tell us. But anyway, in 1982, I just moved to LA from North Texas State. I grew up in Detroit, went to college in Denton, Texas, North Texas State, now University of North Texas. And I moved out to LA, and I got a gig with Maynard Ferguson, one of my heroes, great lead trumpet player, band leader. My brother, Matt, bass player who plays with Elton John. I'm dropping names like crazy here. Anyway, I shouldn't drop names so much, not in the first minute of the show. But anyway, I went into a store called Action Music in Granada Hills, and I said, I have this double pedal made by a guy named Richard Zalmer, but it's not exactly going to hold up on the road, and it's not that reliable, and it's not really working where you hit the left pedal. There's a little delay. And this guy, Ross Garfield, who later became the drum doctor, he said, do you know that Don Lombardi at DW has a new double pedal that they're putting on the market? And I called Don. I went out there, talked to Don, went out there. That's Granada Hills to like the Conejo Valley or Oxnard. I don't even think, I think it was Camarillo then. Anyway, but I just came out that way, and he showed me this prototype with cotter pins in it. It was so one of a kind prototype. He said, you can take this on the road with you. And I took it on a year-long Maynard Ferguson tour. It worked fantastic, held up great. And then as I got home, the pedal was ready for production, and that's what I'm playing right now. So I don't want to be bragging. I don't want to toot my own horn. Testing, is this thing on? But I kind of think I was the first DW double pedal endorsee. And I used to play this solo on a song called Coconut Champagne. I'd play the Steve Gadd cowbell groove while and I'd play double bass through solos and through fills with the big band and had a blast. So anyway, that was 1982. This is 2020, and we're here to talk about some of my favorite songs that impacted me the most growing up. And they hold up today because there's still 5 of my favorite songs that if I'm having one of those days, you know, where the sprinklers go off and they are all out of whack and they hit all the windows that I just cleaned, one of those kind of days. You're brushing your teeth and you get all kinds of toothpaste on the mirror and you clean it up and it's all cloudy. One of those kind of days, I put on these 5 songs, and all of a sudden, everything is beautiful, hey, in its own way. I'm kind of watching myself backwards. It's like looking at one of those circus mirror things. I go like this, it's over there. I go like that, it's over here. Anyway, the first song we're going to talk about is a song by the Beatles. And I want to just tell you real quickly, nothing I say is quick. So I want to tell you in a long, loquacious way. I just learned that word the other day. Someone that talks a lot. I am loquacious. That could be my alias on the road. Loquacious G. Anyway, I am loquacious. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but loquacious. Anyway, Ringo's my hero. I love the Beatles. When I was a kid, and I was born in 1959, and so I saw the Beatles when I was 7 years old in 1966 in Detroit, Michigan. My dad was playing a gig. He was playing a wedding at a hotel, and he came out of the place, the convention room, and he just saw thousands and thousands of screaming girls. And he went over to the food and beverage manager and said, what is going on? The guy said, Bud, the Beatles are staying upstairs. They're playing Olympia Hockey Arena tomorrow. The Beatles are playing tomorrow. Bob, could you put me close to 6 tickets? I'd love to take my kid. 6 tickets, Bud. But it's been sold out for 6 months. It's the Beatles. But I like you. You're a good guy. Come back after your gig's over at 1 a.m. I'll see what I can do. My dad goes into the bar, orders a beer, and Bob says, hey, Bud, I got good news and bad news. I got you 6 tickets, but it's going to be $36 total. $6 a ticket. And my dad's thinking, well, you know, middle class, working class, capitalism, Detroit, Michigan, car industry, gig drummer. I'm making 50 on the gig. I'll clear 14, but we're going to see the Beatles, kids. And the next day, we went to see the Beatles. So that was 1966. And this song came out a little bit after that. And it's called Come Together. And this is Ringo playing on a kit that had, it was a Ludwig kit with 2 toms. It was when he started using 2 tom-toms. And he goes up the drum set. And I thought he was going down. I always thought it was digga. But Ringo being left-handed and having been playing double drums with Ringo now since 2003, 17 years, I can't believe it. My favorite drummer, the drummer that got me into playing in a band. Still, I get excited about playing in a band because I've been in Ringo's All-Star Band since, here I go dropping names again, since 2008. So for the last 12 years, I've been the other drummer in Ringo's All-Star Band. But since 2003, 17 years ago, I've been the other drummer in Ringo and the Roundheads. The Roundheads were kind of the rebels in England that beheaded King Charles, I guess, carried his King Charles Spaniel around, and they knew that it was him and his head because his Spaniel never went anywhere without him. Anyway, that's a little bit of English history. So Ringo and the Roundheads since 2003, I just ask him questions all the time. Gregg, I know you had a Beatle cover band. I know you and your brother Matt, who was also in Ringo and the Roundheads, are Beatle fanatics. Ask me some questions. Well, I asked them about Come Together. I always played it like this, which is the wrong way. And the reason it's the wrong way is because Ringo went ding, ding, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. He had 3 ragtimes, a 4-piece kit. So anyway, I listen to that just about every day, and I don't hear a low, 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 high, 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 high. It just sounds like doodle, 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 doodle. You're going to give a listen. The toms all sound like the same pitch to me, but a lot of that, I think, is because of calf skin heads back then, and the weather would change the pitch of the heads. And so he definitely told me, and I believe him. He went up. I go down, he went up. Doodle, 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 doodle. Now that's the hook of the song. You know, you got boom, boom, boodle, boom, boom. We might not play the whole song, but we're just going to play a snippet of it. You'll hear the hook. What a musical drummer. He decided, I'm not just going to go boom, smack, boom, boom, smack during that hook. I'm going to play rhythmically melodic with that hook. Doom, doom, doodle, doom, doodle, doodle. Well, there's a space. Don't, diddle, da, diddle, diddle, diddle. He's not covering it up. He's complementing it. So anyway, that's the hook of the main theme, the lick. But when he plays the verse, he doesn't even play a hi-hat. He doesn't play a snare drum. He plays bass drum on all 4 and floor tom while John's singing, he wear no shoe shine, he got toe jam football. He's just playing floor tom and bass drum, and it's so cool. Hold you in his arms, yeah, you can feel his disease. Well, that's just kick drum, and that's my DW double pedal. I'm not going right, left, left, because I can play boom, boom, boom on my single. So that's a little joke. That probably didn't translate so well. That's me playing a DW double pedal, but only the right side. So he plays that. That's, you know, at a young age, that's discipline. I don't have that much discipline at 61, let alone 23 or whatever he was. Anyway, probably a little older than that. Anyway, 25. So, anywho, Then when it's come together, the chorus, for those of you kids out there that aren't familiar with a verse and a chorus, the verse is usually where they're telling you the story, building you up, telling you what happened, you know. The chorus, 9 times out of 10, is the title of the song. Come together, bop, boom, boom, right now. There's no hi-hat. There's no, it's just come to kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick over me. So let's give a listen to Ringo Starr on Come Together with the Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. I like to say Ringo, John, Paul, and George. But anyway, here we go. Come Together. Check this out. Okay. Someone did say it. So that might be all we're going to play of Los Escarabajos right now. I went to Mexico and did a tribute to Ringo, and I said, how do you say the Beatles in Spanish? And they said, Los Escarabajos, the Beatles. You know, they crawl around on the ground, I guess. We have a California date. Aaron, who chimed that in? Do you know?
I don't remember.
It came
up and then it went away.
It came from Johnny Bag of Donuts in Rancho Cucamonga. 1850. Boy, was I off. I said 1882. We were in the state. Man, I was 32 years off on that one. 1850. Okay. So anyway, I became a DW double pedal endorser in 1982. So 132 years. Is that right? No, wait a minute. They said there'd be no math. I did not. No. Anyway, so where are we going now? So, yeah, we only played a little bit of the Beatles because you all know that song, and I've already talked about it. But they're my favorite band of all time, and to me, they're the greatest band that ever was and ever will be. But I'm talking about my generation. That was another band called the Rolling Stones. No, Bobby, that's right. It wasn't the Rolling Stones. That was the Who. My generation, the Who. So, any questions? We've got Jules and Kevin and Aaron. Any questions about Come Together? Do I have time for any more Ringo stories? I think so. Since I'm running the show, let me check. Do I have any time for any more Ringo stories? Yes, take all the time you need. It's Ringo. Okay. So, some other things about Ringo that are super cool. Ringo only used one snare drum, his favorite snare drum that he bought when he bought that Beatle kit at Ivor Arbiter's Drum City in London. Ivor Arbiter was the distributor for Ludwig at the time. And he bought a downbeat kit, and it was a 20-inch kick, and it was I think it was a 12 and a 14. But instead of the jazzy piccolo snare, he got the 5 or the 5.5 wood drum. That's the snare that's on Come Together that you just heard. That's also the super high pitched snare on I Want to Hold Your Hand. That's the low snare on Day in the Life. So anyway, that one snare is on every Beatle track. I didn't know that till he told me several years ago about that. I don't even know if that's talked about much. So playlist listeners, you're getting a little insight there. I have another insight that a lot of people don't know about Ringo. He'll hear me warming up, and I'll be backstage going with my DW double pedal on my practice kit. He says, are you doing that again? Doing what? Doing that. He says, I don't do that. I just go out and play. And I said, yeah, but in the middle of the show, I do a solo on Black Magic Woman, the Santana song. Gregg Raleigh's one of the current all-star band members. He said, okay. He says, I never sat behind the drums and just played the drums unless I was playing with other musicians. That blew my mind. You never just sat down and worked out beats? He said, no, why would I? I worked them out with the guys. I worked them out playing in the band. If a bass played this, he was in the Eddie Clayton Skiffle group. He was in Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. Then he was in the Beatles, Los Escarabajos. He said, why would I just sit down on the drums and play the drums without the other people? And I get to, by the grace of God, go all over the world and do a lot of drum seminars every year, play and tour with Ringo every year, and almost every year. Not this year, but we're postponing them till next year. So anyway, when I ask young drummers, how often do you play with other musicians? Half the time, more than half the time, they say, oh, dude, I usually, just like post to YouTube of me doing covers of songs. I say, you're playing with their time. You're following the track, which is great. And that's how you get solid. But half the battle is playing and working out the bass player whose girlfriend just broke up with him, or the guitar player that just had his fifth mocha chocolate yaya, and he's rushing like he's on crystal meth or something, right? So you want to just be the common denominator. You count the songs off at the right tempo, and you keep the songs at the right tempo. That's playing with other musicians. And Ringo had a great point there. It's really important to play with other musicians. Play in bands. Just have a bass player come over and jam. A bass player with a pulse. A bass player without a pulse, you probably don't want to play with them. He'd probably be stinking up the joint. Anyway, play with live, breathing, heartbeat musicians, because that's the way to do it. Okay? So, I think I'm going to move on to my next song here. And my next song is another drummer that just changed my life. Ringo changed my life. This drummer changed my life. Both my mom and dad, back in Detroit, Michigan, were jazz musicians. My dad was a drummer, and my mom played jazz vibes in his band. Her sister, my aunt, played piano in my dad's band. And my dad's hero was Aaron. Can we angle that camera up for just a second to show this guy right here? That's a picture of me when I was 14 with 𝗕𝗜𝗦𝗦𝗢𝗘𝗧𝗧𝗘. Okay, thanks. You can go back. Anyway, and maybe just a little bit. There you go. A little on the high. There we go. I hate when pictures are crooked on the wall. So there we go. Perfecto. Hey, 𝗕𝗓𝗦𝗦𝗢𝗘𝗧𝗧𝗘 inspired this drummer. Which drummer am I talking about, kids? That's right. Art from San Diego. Buddy Rich. Buddy Rich said he copied his whole setup after 𝗕𝗓𝗦𝗦𝗢𝗘𝗧𝗧𝗘. The two floor toms, the crashes right up here, the splash. And Gene and Buddy did a lot of duets. They called them duels or drum battles back then. Now, everything's a little more politically correct. Don't call it a drum battle. It's a duet. So anyway, nowadays in 2020, they would play a duet. Oh, Buddy, you're playing faster than me. Slow it down. No, Buddy went for the jugular, man. Gene's playing, and Buddy goes, oh yeah? Super ripping fast, right? Now, not that fast is everything, but I like cars. Faster cars, in a race are always kind of cooler. And, anyway, not that faster drummers have to be cooler, but this drummer isn't just fast. Buddy Rich is one of the most incredible musicians that ever lived. He'd play with brushes with a trio, and it would be just stellar, spectacular, fantastic, amazing. And then he'd kick the big band, and it would be the most powerful, more powerful than a locomotive, more sensitive than a baby's bottom or a well-shaved cheek. Sensitive, powerful, amazing, but tasteful. Now, he does something in this next song, which is called Love for Sale, an old Cole Porter song. Love for Sale. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Now, our friend Don Lombardi is a Buddy Rich expert, and he has a version of Love for Sale, slowed down, even has one with Buddy with his shirt off. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have any copies of Buddy Rich playing Love for Sale with his shirt off. But he's got this camera, that camera, this bass drum mic only, the big band here. Don Lombardi, I'm telling you, he's got all the Buddy stuff down, and the in and out, inside out. Don, if you're watching, you are the guy, and you've tried to show me that stuff. I have a great memory, but it's short. I can't remember. Inside out. No, upside in. Don and Freddie Gruber dissected that, and I can't remember exactly how or what, but Don knows how Buddy did this 4-bar break in the middle. The 4-bar break, the tempo is about doom tak doom tak doom tak da da da. Well, Buddy plays singles. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Oh, now I had to take a breath, so I'm not going to breathe Take a breath this time. So he's already gone, which is like, I haven't warmed up, but even if I warmed up, I couldn't play it as fast as, and as smooth and as clean as Buddy. And with the accents, so it's like 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll slow it down. He's going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So you'll hear when that solo 4-bar break comes up. He always started the songs off by telling the band what song he was playing by a hi-hat cue. And maybe this could be one of them. Notice I've got can you possibly angle it? Yeah, I've got my left hand is underneath the hi-hat, but he did a lot of this under the hi-hat stuff. Number 46, 57, and the guys had to scramble. All the charts were numbered, like 1,000 charts numbered. Can you pull your side up a little bit higher? Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Peace and love. So, 1, 2, you're going to hear Buddy's famous count off. You're going to hear the trombones play the melody. And you're going to hear the band kicking. And when the band soars, he's kicking that band. It's exciting. It's powerful. It's musical. But yet he has more chops than you could ever believe. But when it gets to that 4-bar solo, I still get goosebumps. Okay, so here we go. Buddy Rich, Love for Sale. All right, I'm going to talk over the track a little bit here. I remembered this song being a lot faster, and I just woke up a couple hours ago, and I've only had 1 cup of coffee so far, but I remembered it being a lot faster. Check this break out. Oh, he was the consummate guy to leave that space. It's kind of like you're talking, and you leave the audience wondering what you're going to say that. I didn't freeze. I just left you thinking, oh, he froze. Buddy was that guy. He'd play something cool. He'll stop before the solo. Watch. But that lead in, because he's always swinging. So, okay, so I think this song gets a little faster as we go. A lot of songs, live tend to get excitement as the band gets roaring. Listen to Charlie Watts on Honky Tonk Woman. Holy cow. It starts off tick-tock, tick-tock, tick, and then by the end of the song, it's a lot faster. Listen to Tony Williams with Miles, 17 years old. One thing, Ringo never seemed to do that. He never seemed to really speed up a track. It just kind of always was the right tempo. Okay, now we're getting into some fills. Next solo. So when he's playing with the big band, he's at this level of excitement. When he comes down a little bit for this trumpet solo, okay, now the trumpet's really soaring and playing high notes, so his volume's up, the excitement level's up. It's like a California earthquake. I don't want to bag on, the poor earthquake victims or anything, but when you feel one of those earthquakes coming, it's like a steamroller, like a train coming. Oh no, the rumble. Well, here comes the rumble, okay? Here comes the rumble. And pretty soon there's going to be the bam. All right, so Buddy Rich's, another solo. Okay, now this is a sax solo, alto solo, or maybe tenor solo. Tenor solo. So he's back down to small group mode. These pictures are phenomenal. I'm seeing so many great photos of a young Buddy. I got to hang with Buddy when I was in Maynard Ferguson's band. We would play on the same bill. Sometimes Buddy's band would go first, sometimes Maynard's band would go first. We'd flip a coin. Buddy was a competitor. He did not want to go first, let me tell you. He wanted to close the show. Sometimes he'd play West Side Story and Channel 1 Suite just because he had to play the beginning and he wanted to show everybody. Okay, here we go. Now we're building it up. Here comes that freight train. Here we go. Building up. Chorus. Backbeat. Chopping wood. Here comes that break. Check out the precision, the speed, the emotion, the passion. 1, 2, ready, Buddy. Ooh. Ah. And after he plays that fill, he goes, ah. Passion. My favorite drummers have passion. Buddy Rich was all about passion. Passion. Location. Right, Kevin? Real estate. Well, we're talking passion right here. Check this ending out. So Buddy's eyeballing his lead trumpet player. The drummer and the lead trumpet player have to be as one in a big band. If the guy or the gal playing lead trumpet is out of breath, no sound comes out of their horn. So as a drummer, and they're going, and they're turning purple, and Buddy's going, and he looks at him, and they're almost lavender, and they're turning purple, and he goes, gosh. Well, gosh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was obviously the little wink deal, unwritten code of the West that Buddy and his lead trumpet player had going on. Because as the guy's about to pass out and fall off the back of the riser, gosh. So that's Buddy Rich, man. He lived on the edge, and he was very sarcastic. He would get on Johnny Carson all the time, and that whole era, Don Rickles and Bob Hope and all the guests and Ed McMahon as the, you are correct, sir. The sidekick. Buddy was always busting Johnny, and Johnny Carson was always busting Buddy. And Johnny Carson liked to dabble in drums. One time he came to a friend of mine, Don Perry, his gig in Malibu, and he lived next door, and he called, he said, does your drummer have those things that go together, the hi-hat? Oh, yes, tell Johnny I have a hi-hat. Good, I'll come over and sit in. Johnny Carson was a drum fanatic, but he busted Buddy Rich all the time on that show. Go to YouTube and watch Buddy Rich on the Johnny Carson show. It's just a roast. They're roasting each other. They loved each other. And he roasted Frank Sinatra, and Frank Sinatra roasted him, but they were dear friends. They were roommates, I think, with Artie Shaw's band. I'm not sure on Artie Shaw. Tommy Dorsey's band. Anyway, I think Artie Shaw. I'm not positive. But Frank Sinatra had some do-re-mi. He had some money, and he fronted the money for Buddy to start his big band. That's how close they were, even though they thought they were close. And Buddy just had that kind of New York. I'm from Detroit, but New York's kind of on another level of just like, one-upmanship. Oh, yeah, what are you talking about over there? Gets a little, Buddy could get in the face of these musicians on the bus, screaming at them, but he kind of ran a tight ship on that bus where they were afraid to make mistakes. Now, at the same time, in the early 80s, I was in Maynard Ferguson's band. Maynard Ferguson was the exact polar opposite. He would just sit in the front of the bus and hang out and drink champagne and dance all night under electric candlelight. Who knows what song that is? Let's see if any of Aaron doesn't know. I don't know. Maybe Jules or Kevin know, but what song was that? Okay. Drink champagne and danced all night under electric candlelight. Picked me up and sat me on the knee and said, little boy, won't you come on with me? Well, I'm not the world's. I like lyrics. Anyway, that's one of my favorite songs. So, Buddy Maynard would sit in the front of the bus, drink champagne, and just tell everybody how cool the gig was. When he really wanted to be disciplinary, he would take a board tape. Now, that's old school for a cassette tape. They went in cassette players. And if you go to an old classic car show, you might find a car that has a cassette player in it. He'd take a cassette player and put it in his blaster in the front of the bus and play the show. And we would all be cringing. Do we have an answer?
Lola.
Lola. Who got that answer?
Jules.
Jules Thomas. She knows. Way to go. That was by a band called The Kinks. And what a great song. I think I was in the 6th grade when that came out. Anyway. So Buddy Rich and Maynard, totally different personalities, but Maynard would play that gig tape and we would just cringe, oh, I'm speeding up, I'm slowing down. The sax players, sax players adjust their tuning, their intonation by their mouthpiece, and they'd be in their sleep thinking, oh, I'm playing out of tune. They're adjusting their mouthpiece in their sleep, Anyway, so Buddy Rich, what a hero, what a game changer. He had that big band. I must have seen Buddy's big band live 30 times at least, but playing on tour with Maynard and being on the same bill with Buddy was phenomenal. Then being asked by his wonderful daughter, Kathy Rich, to be a part of the Burning for Buddy, and Neil Peart, who produced Burning for Buddy CDs. But Kathy asking me to play on the first Buddy Rich memorial that wasn't videotaped. People don't know about the first memorial. The first memorial had a lot of drummers that aren't on that first video cassette. The first video cassette you see is Dennis Chambers, Louis Bellson, and I playing a drum trio. Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, Dave Weckl playing a drum trio. But a year and a half before that, that was done at the Wiltern Theater on the corner of what 2 streets? It's called the Wiltern because it's on the intersection of what 2 streets, you Hollywood guys? Let's see who gets that question. The Wiltern. I'm going to tell you. Wilshire and Western. Wiltern Theater. But before that, in Long Island, there was a place in Carroll Place called the Westbury Music Fair. And the stage went into circular motion. Both my parents came out there, drove out from Detroit and saw it. Louis Bellson and I played a duo, a duet, I'll say, not a duel. You don't want a duel with Louis, you'll lose. We played a duet. That was before Dennis Chambers was in the mix. So it was Louis and I doing a duet, Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, and Dave Weckl doing a trio. But a lot of other drummers. Dom Famularo played with Buddy's band. Al Miller, one of Buddy Rich's best friends, played with the band. Jim Chapin played with the band and kind of did a rap. It wouldn't be called a rap back in Jim's day, but he was scatting. Jim Chapin did a scat. Buddy Rich, Todd loves Buddy Rich. Buddy played just like this. And he played with the band. Joe Morello from the Dave Brubeck band. Take 5, Joe Morello played with the band. It was really super cool. But then it got whittled down a little bit. But anyway, getting to do that was a huge, huge honor. And so right off the bat, we've talked about 2 of my all-time heroes. Again, Ringo is the reason I want to be in a band. He is, if I have to put a listing in this, my number 1 favorite drummer. But Buddy Rich is that close second to me, just wanting to get down in the basement and practice. Do what Ringo never did. I sat and still sit for hours and hours and hours and hours every week, just playing my drums. I would get home from school. First thing I'd do in Detroit, run down to my basement and play my drums, put on Buddy Rich records, pretend that Buddy Rich broke his arm. He did break his arm once. He played a whole tour with just his right hand and his left hand in a cast. Maybe Buddy broke both his arms on this tour, and I got the sub on Love for Sale or Norwegian Wood. There's a Beatle and Buddy Rich combo there. Buddy Rich did a cover of the Beatles' Norwegian Wood. But anyway, so Ringo we covered already, Come Together, Beatles. Buddy Rich we just covered, Love for Sale, the Buddy Rich Big Band. Now we're going to go on to my 3rd song and another huge, huge influence. And this guy is a D.W. and Dorsey. Not just the pedals, but the drums too. And he was in one of my favorite bands of all time called Chicago. I thought that was pretty cool back as a kid. I always wanted to have a band called Detroit, but he had a band called Chicago. They were originally called Chicago Transit Authority, but then the bus company, I think, sued them. And they said, you can't call yourself Chicago Transit Authority. That's like calling yourself the Metrolink here in LA, or whatever. So they changed it. Okay, we'll just be Chicago. So they were Chicago. And man, was I into that band. So much so that my brother Matt, and I had a band, and we went to Woolworths. That's not there around anymore. It would be like Walmart now. And we bought these light blue, powder blue t-shirts, and we ironed on the Chicago cursive logo. And then we had the gonads to iron on a Roman numeral 2. We were Chicago 2. Okay, how corny is that? I told this great drummer, whose name I'm now going to proclaim, Danny Seraphine. I told Danny when I met him, I was playing with David Lee Roth's band, and we were playing in Denver. And I'd heard that Danny had moved to Denver. So I called him and invited him to the show. He came out, and I said, you have no idea, Danny, how into your playing I am, and what a Chicago freak I am. And I told him the story, and he said, you really called your band Chicago 2? I said, yeah, but we changed it. Later, we changed it to a park. Like LA has MacArthur Park. We had Grand Circus Park in Detroit. So our band became Grand Circus Park. Brian Biggs on guitar, Rick Castruba trumpet, Bert Snover trombone, Eric Cott saxophone, Sante Bologna, how about that for an Italian Detroit name? Sante Bologna on keyboards, Doug Burns on vocals, my brother Matt on bass, and I played drums. How's that for some Prevagen memory, right? Take Prevagen, an ingredient found in jellyfish. And Ringo told me about CoQ10. It kickstarts the brain, right? So I take CoQ10 and Prevagen every day. You thought this was just a drum clinic. I talked to Rich Redmond yesterday. He said he's doing a fitness one Friday. Oh, yeah, Rich, I'm going to get a jump on you and tell him about Prevagen and CoQ10, no matter what age you are. If you want to, I went to my 40-year reunion a couple of years ago, and they had a guess who this is thing. No names. I guessed everybody. Okay, where am I? Who are you? What are we doing today? Where did I park my car? No, I'm pretty hip with technology, actually. Last week, I got a fax machine. I tell you right now. Rodney Dangerfield. I miss that guy. I'll tell you. Rodney, if he were still alive, would buy some of my jokes, because Rodney would give you $5 if you had a joke that he wanted to use. So I wrote a joke about a year ago that I think if Rodney were still alive, he would use. And here it is. I'll tell you, I give no respect. As a kid, I got no respect. My parents were cheap. I'll tell you, they were so cheap. They took me to the Moyle that was 1/3 off. 1/3 off. Okay, we're not going to translate that one, but a little humor, a little Rodney Dangerfield, okay? I'll tell you. My car always breaks down, but last week I bought the perfect second car, a tow truck. I'll tell you. Anyway. So I could go forever with Rodney. He never got any respect. He bought a kidney-shaped pool. There was a stone in it. Okay, so Rodney Dangerfield. Got to love that guy. But back to Danny Seraphine. Danny Seraphine changed the game as well. He was one of those drummers that Buddy Rich respected. Buddy Rich didn't respect a lot of drummers. And I think on the Carson show, he talked about Danny Seraphine, because Danny was an incredible musician. Stan Kenton, the great big band leader, did an album, and Peter Erskine played drums on it, called Kenton Plays Chicago. That's how musical Chicago was. What a band, with Jimmy Pankow, the trombone player, doing the horn arrangements and stuff. So anyway, there's a song on my favorite Chicago album. I love them all, but I especially love Chicago 5. And the cover, they always had their name in cursive, right? But the cover was a piece of wood, a nice piece of wood that someone, when I was a kid, maybe in the 4th grade, we would get these wood burning sets. What do you want for Christmas? I want a trick-track electric car set, and I want a wood burning set. Nowadays it's Call of Duty. Let's see how many people we can kill while blood splatters on the screen. I just wanted a little wood burning set. Well, somebody with a wood burning set wrote the name Chicago on this album. Jules, can we show them this cover? Look at that. What's cooler? Blood splatting on the screen with Call of Duty, Warp Tops, or this wood-burned Chicago logo? Kids don't answer that question. But anyway, I think that's a really cool album. I just stared at that album cover all the time. When I'd listen to the albums, I'd stare at the cover. I would open them up. I would read get this, liner notes. Who played in the strings section? Who produced it? Where was it recorded? What drums and cymbals does Danny Seraphine endorse and want to put on the credits? Nowadays, I'm dropping a single. Now you're dropping a single and you're dropping everybody's credits. Nobody knows who played drums on Johnny Bag of Donuts' new single. Johnny Bag of Donuts probably doesn't even know who played on his single. And that's a drag. I'm sorry, but that's a drag. I love technology, but this album And all these albums that I'm playing, all these songs I'm playing today came from albums. And the albums were big. And you held up that album and you looked at the cover, you flipped it over, you read the songs in the order, you found out when you opened it up all the credits. You even took the album out of the sleeve, and the sleeve had more lyrics on them. And, you know, nowadays people don't even, unless there's a lyric video, and half of them they can't even put on there. Kids, you can't watch the explicit version. There's a lot of F-bombs in this one. Sorry, kids, no lyrics. So we didn't have F-bombs back then in 1850. So on the albums, because we didn't have albums. Albums are made from what, kids? Vinyl. That's why they call them vinyl. Okay. And the groove term came from, you drop a needle and the needle sits in the groove and it spins around and it gets smaller and smaller. It's in the groove. If you're in the groove, you're going to play. If you're out of the groove, you're out of the band, you're on the street, and no gig for you, pal. So be in the groove, and we're going to listen right now to a song. A lot of Chicago songs on this album, Chicago 5, are in 3/4 time. 3/4 time, as Lawrence Welk would call it. Now we're going to play a waltz in 3/4 time. Now, for those of you who aren't really hip to theory, the 3 in the numerator is how many beats per bar. The 4 in the denominator, what kind of note gets the beat. So check this out. They said there'd be no math again. Here we go. 3 quarter notes in a bar. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The last time I played in this room with my friend Neil Peart, I said, what do you want to play today, Neil? He said, can we just play in 3/4 all day? And we did. I said, you want to do 3/4 waltzes, 3/4 jazz, 3/4 rock, fusion, funk, Brazilian sambas in 3/4? He said, anything. Let's just play in 3. I want to work on my 3/4. Now there's a drummer, Neil Peart, that was always wanting to get better, always wanting to improve. So anyway, this song I've picked is one of the 3/4 songs. It's called Now That You've Gone. But one of the coolest things about this song to me is the way Danny Seraphine used his toms. And I think he had probably like a 7-piece kit, but I'm going to play it. Got a phone call there. I wish I could figure out. I tried to turn off my notifications, but it came through anyway. So he played this groove. Here we go. Now That You've Gone, Danny Seraphine from the band Chicago on the album Chicago 5. Here we go. There's that 3/4 pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Here comes the band. Robert Lamb on keyboards. Peter Cetera on bass. Terry Kath, what a guitar player, on guitar. Jimmy Pankow, Lee Lutney, and Walter Parazater on sax. 2, 3. 2, 3. I'll conduct. Verse.
Take a closer look inside yourself. You may see the love that I left behind.
Those horn swells, dynamics, sforzandos, SFZ. You hit it hard. Chicago copywrote that stuff. Here we go. Sforzando. Next time around, he plays tambourine overdub on this, but now he's on the bell. 1, 2, 3, 1. Trombone taking the lead, right? Trombone, trumpet, and sax. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Chorus. 1, 2, and 3. One and 2 and 3. 1. Cowbell comes in here. Next time around. King, king, king. All in 3 still. Horn interlude. Ba-ba-da-ya. Ba-ba-ba. Watch this. Here we go. And he catches that a lot, like a big band drummer. We're going to build it. Here comes the tambourine. Now this part of the song was used in Detroit for the 4:30 movie every day. Here's the 4:30 movie on Channel 7, ABC. And they would play this. No lyrics, they could talk over it like I'm talking now. Hey, welcome to the DW playlist party. Jules Thomas, Kevin Majorino, Aaron Rudin, and I are going to talk to you about Danny Seraphine chorus. Terry Kath, so soulful. What a voice. It's all in 3. And now we're going to have a recapitulation. What's a recapitulation? It's when you go back to the top. Danny. Okay, so we can cut it right here because that sax solo goes on and on and on and on for a long time. It's a great sax solo. But we're going to, Jules, Kevin, that was a very professional fade right there. My son goes and gets a haircut. He says, I got to get a haircut. I said, you don't need a haircut. Your hair looks great. He goes, no, I need to keep my fade. That was a great fade. That was a great Kevin Majorino. Let's have a hand for Kevin on that fade. Kevin Majorino. He also does sound for 𝗕𝗏𝗘𝗚𝗚, who happens to be a neighbor of mine here in Southern California. Anyway, so now Danny Seraphine. Don Lombardi, the great Don Lombardi, who pioneered the DW double pedal. Don Lombardi and John Good. All of a sudden, Don calls me up one day and he says, hey, your pet, this is about 1995. Okay. So 15 years ago, right, Aaron? He's my math checker. I mean, 25 years ago. Are you kidding? 25 years ago, 19, I was thinking, see, they said there'd be no math. No, 25 or 6 to 4. There's another great Chicago song. Who knows what that song was written about? Let's see if you can guess what 25 or 6 to 4 was written about. Da, 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 da. So 25 years ago, Don Lombardi calls me up and says, your buddy Danny Seraphine has been asked to do a drum clinic in his hometown of Chicago. And he's a little freaked out because he's never done a clinic before. You do a boatload of clinics, and you always have since you were 22 with Maynard's band. Could he come over to your house where you have 2 drum sets, and could you maybe give him some ideas on what you want to do for a clinic? I said, absolutely. I already know what I'd want to see at a Danny Seraphine clinic. So he brings Danny over, and I had a little surprise in store. I had my dear friend from Detroit, Bob Birch, great bass player, who was a Peter Cetera fanatic, knew every Peter Cetera bass line, the bass player from Chicago. I had my other great friend, Mark Bonilla, who was a Terry Kath fanatic, knew every Terry Kath guitar line. I had them already in my drum room with a guitar amp and a bass amp. I said, hey, Danny, man, great to have you over. Let's talk about some stuff you can do for your clinic. But first, let's go in the garage and just jam double drums. It's my buddy Bob and my buddy Mark. Oh, cool. Nice to meet you guys. He's probably wondering why they're here. Probably just fans, right? He comes in my drum room and he goes, why is there a guitar amp and a guitar and a bass amp and a bass? Last time we were here, there was just 2 drums. I said, well, Bob happens to be a big Peter Cetera fan. Mark happens to be a big Terry Kath fan. And Bob says, Danny, sit down. And he starts going, and Danny goes, blank, 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 which is a song he's playing. Another quiz for you guys. What song also off Chicago 5 is that bass line? 1, 2, 1, 2. Kind of a shuffle, right? He says, you know that song? And then Mark Bonilla starts playing the Terry Kath part. And Danny plays the song. I jump in. We jam on that song for about, I don't know, the groove for like 15 minutes. And then we go on to another song. Beginnings, 25 or 6 to 4. Make Me Smile. Old Days, Saturday in the Park. So many Chicago songs he played that day. And Danny says, man, I want to start a band with you guys. And Bob says, well, I play on the road already with Elton John. Before my brother played bass, Bob was the bass player. And Mark said, I'm not in the band right now. I do TV film work. I'll be in your band. And they decided to call it, instead of California Transit Authority, which was the band name they were sued for, and they just were Chicago, he decides to call this band California Transit Authority. So that band is just so cool. And Mark is in that band. But that's what Danny's doing these days, is playing with CTA, because Chicago Transit Authority was CTA. Well, guess what? Same initials, California Transit Authority, CTA, Danny Seraphine. Another huge game changer. Danny's one of my best friends. We hang out all the time, not enough. He's recently moved from the Conejo Valley to Nashville. And so, but we talk a lot, we text a lot. And when he's in town, we're going to be here playing some double drums. So Danny Seraphine, Chicago, or CTA, California Transit Authority, one of my heroes. Okay, now we're on to number 4. I feel like Casey Kasem. The countdown this week. What are you giving me, a dedication about a dog dying? I got to go in and do a love song about a dog dying? I don't know if you've ever seen that, heard that one on YouTube. It's pretty explicit. Casey Kasem being upset that they gave him a dog dying dedication before a love song. What are you putting in this? You're killing me with this order. Anyway, my choice for the 4th song here is a song that Jeff Porcaro said influenced him in the groove to Rosanna. Now, you probably all know this song isn't going to be Rosanna. It's going to be the song that influenced Jeff to play Rosanna. Rosanna goes like this. Ah. Ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba. Well, can you think of a song, for those of you who didn't hear Jeff say in his instructional video years ago that he was influenced by this song? Can you think of a song with that kind of a feel, but a little bit slower? And then the B section, hi-hat keeps going on, closing with the foot. It's hard to play this song quiet, and I'm trying to play it quiet so it doesn't blow up the compression on the interwebs. But anyway, that song is Fool in the Rain, and the drummer is none other than John Henry Bonham. That's English for John Henry Bonham. And this song is one of those songs. It's my favorite Led Zeppelin song, and I am a huge, huge John Bonham fanatic. John Bonham was a huge Buddy Rich fan. And Jason Bonham, his son, told me that his dad just loved Buddy Rich and was always talking about Buddy Rich. And if you watch any of John Bonham's drum solos on YouTube, you can see the influence. He's playing like this. I'll try to play soft. It's hard. And he had that little tambourine jingling. And wow, he'd play with his hands. I don't even want to think about playing with my hands. I'm the guy that puts gloves on to play on a cajon. I want to live to be 100 and keep my hands fresh. I got to keep the hands fresh. How many of you know about a drummer who passed away, who was a comedian named Charlie Callis? One of my favorite comedians. He always looked like he was caught off guard. I got to think of. I met him once at Valley Arts Guitar. He was demoing some cymbals for me. This is Buddy Rich's stuff. Buddy does this. Underneath, they go. You like Buddy Rich? Check this out. And he's got his hi-hat. He's doing a whole shtick, and his wife's outside of the cymbal booth going, Charlie, let's go. You know, she's seen that shtick like for the last 40, 50 years. So anyway, so Charlie Callis, a friend of mine now, called me up and said, hey, I know you're a Charlie Callis fan. I saw your instructional DVD with Hudson Music, and you talk about Charlie. You do these Charlie Callis impressions. I'm going to give you one of Charlie Callis's floor toms with a case, a fiber case with his name stenciled on it. So I have that here in my home, a Charlie Callis fiber case stenciled with his name. And that Buddy Rich finish, you know. Anyway, so Bonham was a huge Buddy fanatic. Bonham also, one of his best friends was who? The first drummer I talked about, my favorite drummer, Ringo. Ringo told me once at a party, Ringo and Charlie Watts were literally holding Bonham's bass drum down because they were in somebody's living room with like hardwood floors, and he was playing so strong that the bass drum was just moving. Now, Bonham didn't overdo it. He didn't play like, and over redline the drums. You know, you can redline your drums real easy. Sound guys will tell you, you're hitting so hard, I can't even pull the tone out of the drums. You're destroying the tone. You're redlining the meters, right, Kevin? So you want to pull the sound out of the drums. And Bonham played a lot like Buddy Rich. He tuned his drums like Buddy Rich, the big 24 or 26 wide open kick, no muffling, kind of high pitched, medium high snare, and the rack tom kind of high, and the floor not as low as you would think. But anyway, he hit hard, but he didn't overdo it. And a lot of people, I'm going to play like Bonham. You know, Ringo was the first one to tell me he watched Bonham all the time, and he didn't overdo it. But they had to hold his kick drum down. Ringo told me another funny story about Bonham. Every time Zeppelin would come back into town and they'd land, Bonham would get to a landline. That's all we had. And he'd call Ringo's home. He said, I just want to make sure you're home. Yeah, John, I'm home. And he'd hang up, and John would take the limo over. The door would be unlocked. He'd pick up Ringo, take him out in the backyard, and throw him in his own pool. It got to the point where after a while, Ringo, okay, I've got my swimsuit on, you know. He'd already be in his swim because he knew John was going to pick him up and throw him in his pool. That's some pretty fun stuff right there. Pretty fun, wacky stuff. Probably didn't hear that story on your instructional drum video. Anyway, so that's what the playlist party's about here. Some inside stuff, okay? I'm going to tell you a story about Kevin Majorino when he was 4 that a lot of people don't know. When Kevin was 4, no. So anyway, John Bonham, Fool in the Rain. Let's give a listen to this, and I'll talk a little bit more about John. Listen to those ghost notes. John Bonham's playing that 2 and 4 nice and strong, but he's got those little ghost notes that really add to the feel. And he's so locked in. There's no click track. Click tracks didn't come around till middle 80s. I didn't say middle ladies, I said middle 80s. Now the bell of the cymbal. Bing, 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 bing. But the hi-hat still doing it. So the groove is right there. It's that halftime shuffle. Verse. The open hi-hat on the end of one is so hard to get down. Now the bell, ding, 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 ding. And remember the hi-hat, chick, 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 kind of a jazz thing. Hi-hat with the foot on 2 and 4, or the and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Back to the hi-hat. I got to play this song on the Brian Tishy's Bonzo Bash last year. What a blast playing this song live. Now talk about stylistic differences. Brazilian samba right here. Snare drum, kick, and hi-hat. Timbales. That's a good alias for a hotel room. Timbale. I'm here to see Mr. Timbale. Got the samba whistle, which is an LP product, by the way. Samba whistle. Tritone, I think it's called. Now he's going to play a wicked single stroke roll and get back to the shuffle. Here we go. Back into the shuffle. Wait for it. He's got the go-go bell, also made by LP. Tritone. Here we go. More timbales. Great drum fill. Okay, so we can cut it here, Kevin, Jules. Man, that is one sexy fade right there. John Bonham would be proud of that fade because that guitar solo kind of goes on for a while. So yeah, we talked about the snare fill. Bang! He takes it from the Brazilian samba. I mean, who would have thought that Led Zeppelin would be playing a Brazilian samba? And I go around the world and talk to drummers that go, yeah, dude, you know, I don't really want to work on different styles because I just want to play rock. Well, who's your favorite drummer? Oh, John Bonham. Bonzo, dude. Well, Bonzo listened to a lot of Brazilian sambas. What? Wait, what? You always seem to get that. Wait, and then what? Wait, what? Or you go to a baseball game and they're interviewing the ball players. What do you think about that triple play you guys made there? Wasn't that great? No, yeah, it was great. Yeah, no, it was great. Wait a minute. Yeah, no, it was great. No, yeah, it was great. Wait, what? No, but Bonham was way into Brazilian sambas. He was way into jazz. So he's playing the hi-hat. This isn't a drum clinic, but I have to point out these things about Bonham's playing and Bonham's influences. If you want to be great, like John Bonham or Ringo or Buddy Rich or Danny Seraphine or the next drummer I'm about to talk to, you got to get into liking all styles of drumming. You don't necessarily have to love all styles of singing. As a father of two, I remember, you know, my son, you know, 10 years old, Eminem, explicit version. Okay, you know, cool groove, cool song, but let's play the clean version. Oh, it's just not it's not as cool. Well, this is my house. I pay the mortgage, clean version. So I'm not the biggest F-bomb, using the Lord's name in vain fan. I don't like it at all. I don't do it, and I just didn't want that in my house. I'm also not the biggest fan of like super dark death metal Cookie Monster vocals. Like Cookie Monster. Not my jam. Kind of scares me. Gives me nightmares. But I love the drumming. Take, for instance, Meshuggah, Thomas Hawka, one of my favorite drummers. That singer comes in, I want to hear the instrumental part. Just kind of me, okay? So, but I love all the drumming. I love all styles of drumming. So even if you don't like the lyrics to a country song about your pickup truck and your dog dying and your girlfriend slashing all the 4 tires and took a baseball bat to your front headlights and carved her name in your seat. You don't want to listen to the lyrics. You might want to listen to the drum groove because the drums are, that's what we do as drummers, right? So this next song, man, I focused in on the drums. I was in the 6th grade, okay? I was 11 years old. The year was 1970. I didn't know much about Los Angeles. I knew that Detroit had race riots that year, or when I was a kid, they had race riots. I had a National Guard tank going down my street. Mom, where are they going? They're going downtown. The downtown's burning. And I heard on the news that there was a place in LA called Watts, and Watts was having race riots. Okay. Now I live in LA. I know about Watts. I know about the lay of the land in LA. But there was a band called Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. That's kind of a long title, you know. I think that's one of the longest titles I've ever known for a band. But there was a drummer, and he still plays right down the street from my house at a place called, it's in Woodland Hills, and what do you call it when you get royalties? Not royalties, residuals. It's called the Residual Room or something. Oh, it's just called Residuals, right? Aaron knows this. Jules, you ever go to Residuals? I bet she's gone. She'll text you. Yes, I've gone. Kevin's gone to Residuals. This drummer plays at Residuals every Thursday night. Okay. When I was a kid, growing up, Jules has never been to Residuals. Okay. Well, it's a cool club. It's like the Baked Potato West. It's like the jazz club out this way, but there's no cover charge. Wait a minute. Did I hear that correctly? Hold on. There's no cover charge. There's a jazz club in LA and there's no cover charge. You can just walk right in and hear great music. There's a drink minimum, and you don't have to be even 21 because they serve food. So you can order a pop, as we'd say in Detroit. Get a pop. What flavor pop do you want? Oh, I'll have a Coke. I'll have a soda. I'm from New Jersey. So anyway, recovery room. This drummer named James Gadson is on this song I'm about to play, Express Yourself, by Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. That's a long title. Anyway, so I said, what is going on with this drummer? I wasn't yet into a lot of, kind of like later on I got into David Garibaldi, one of my best friends, and linear drumming, Tower of Power. But I was familiar with the drummers of James Brown, Clyde Stubblefield, and Jabo Starks. And I knew about I Feel Good and Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. And I knew about the funky drummer, James Brown. And this song, more than any other song, I bet James Gadson, I know him pretty well, not really well. I see him on recording sessions sometimes. There's a studio called East West. Used to be Ocean Way or United Western down on Sunset. Now, Jules, I know you've been there because you've delivered double pedals there to Abe Jr. probably. But anyway, I always see him at East West, and I tell him how much I love this song and how when I was 11, I would just practice this with my headphones. Whenever it came on the radio, it just freaked me out, especially this middle section, this horn breakdown, where he plays 8 bars of the funkiest, probably to my taste, the funkiest 8 bars there is in music. Okay, it's the horn breakdown of this song, Express Yourself, because Charles Wright, I don't even know if Charles was a singer. I'm assuming he was because it's his band, but he goes, and let the horns just hang loose now. And the horns go, ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, Charlie Kellis. When you hear this breakdown, you're going to go, what is James Gadson doing? But let's just listen to this song, and then we'll talk about it a little more. I'm going to tell you when this breakdown comes up. Check this out. This is James Gadson. I think it's 1970. Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. James Gadson on drums. Express Yourself.
Express yourself. Express yourself. You don't never need help from nobody else. All you got to do now, express yourself. Whatever you do,
So listen to that syncopation of the snare. He's just motoring along, powering along. He's copping a lot of the bass notes. He's catching the horn notes, but he's just grooving. B section.
What you look like when you're doing what you're doing is what you're doing when you're doing what you look like you're doing.
Chorus. And 𝗚𝗥𝗘𝗚𝗚, he's the guitar player in this band, later of Earth, Wind, and Fire fame. He's just percolating. That guitar 𝗚𝗥𝗘𝗚𝗚 part is just percolating. Now we're coming up on this horn break. Everybody now. Kangaroo. Here we go.
So let the horn do the thing do, y'all. Some people have everything and other people don't. But everything don't mean a thing. If it ain't the thing you want, express
Chorus.
yourself. Express yourself. Oh, do it.
Outro. He's not going nuts. He's not playing fills.
Do it to
I never even heard a tom-tom.
Go on and do
I didn't hear one single tom. I just heard kick, snare, hi-hat. Never heard a cymbal crash.
Express yourself. Express yourself.
Cool.
Do
Now we can do a little fade here because this goes on for a while. Thank you, Kevin. So, James Gatson, did we hear a tom-tom fill? I didn't. Did we hear a cymbal crash? I didn't. A couple years ago, I did a session at The Village, which is another great studio in Santa Monica, off of Santa Monica and Butler there. And this guy from England came all the way over from England. I was so honored and blessed and blown away that he came here and he wanted to hire me to play on his album. So we're in that smaller studio where Steve Gadd cut Asia drum solo. And he says, okay, mate, that was a good take, but I'm not a big fan of tom fills. Could you not play any tom fills? And I went, wow, cool. James Gatson didn't play any tom fills and express yourself. Cool, no tom fills. Here we go. And next time we finish, he goes, good take, mate. But I'm not a big fan of crash cymbals. You don't have to announce the sections, like this is a chorus, whatever. Just no crash cymbals. I say, yeah, most of the songs I hear on KISS FM, there's no crash cymbals. Most of them aren't real drummers anyway, but even the ones that do have real drums, not a lot of crash cymbals going on in a lot of pop songs. You hear crash cymbals in rock, jazz, country, Afro-Cuban, Brazilian sambas, lots of pop stuff, KISS FM, not a lot of crash cymbals. And this was a pop session, so you got it. No crash cymbals. So we did another take, and he said, well, that one time you went, da-ga-da-da-da-da-da-da. He said, I'm not a big fan of snare fills. So I just played kick, snare, and hat, and all my fills, like James Gatson, not as good as James Gatson, but all my fills were just linear kick, snare, hat. He did like that kind of rough or that crush that you hear Zigaboo Modaliste from the Meters do a lot, or Stanton Moore do a lot. And James Gatson, now I've heard him do some crush rolls like that. But in the beginning, bop, bop, do bop, 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 bop. He plays that on the snare. Bop, bop. So go back and listen to that song and listen to the intricacies of how the linear drumming just really makes that song percolate and groove. And if you're ever having a day, you wake up, it's cloudy, it's rainy, your coffee pot isn't working, you put on that song, just say, okay, Google, play Express Yourself by Charles Wright and the Watts 100. It'll cut you off because the name's too long. Anyway, say, play Express Yourself by Charles Wright. Playing Express Yourself by Charles Wright on YouTube. And it'll put you in a good mood. This is feel-good music. All these 5 songs are feel-good songs for me. But this last song especially, man, I'm not much of a dancer. I'm whiter than vanilla ice. But I can, dance while I'm having my coffee to express yourself. Aaron, did we have any questions this whole time?
We did not really, but we got a lot of love for you and for Danny Seraphine, John Bonham, Buddy Rich, Ringo. Some props on your Pure Modern Drummer Festival.
Oh, cool.
And everyone's just having a good time.
Oh, that's so great. Well, we don't have any questions, but we got some love. It's all about love. As Ringo says, peace and love. One thing I want to tell you about Ringo Starr, that is not just some act, the peace and love. That is the real deal. Ringo is all about peace, man. When you talk to him and you hang with him, he is at peace. He's not stressing about yesterday or worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. He's in the moment. He's living for right now. And that's something I'd like to kind of impart onto all of you, is live for the moment. Live right now. Because right now is all we really have right now. And love, man, he really shows his band just how much he cares. He cares about what we eat because he wants us to be healthy and live long lives. He busts us with that sarcastic Liverpudlian humor. He busts us on what we eat and if we're exercising enough. But he's peace and love. And I'll tell you, take care of yourselves and take care of others. And another thing too is I always talk about the pie. If you cut the pie down the middle, half of the pie, being a musician, is learning all these grooves, learning everything you can about the drums, about your instrument. But the other half of the pie has nothing to do with the technical side of playing. It has to do everything with how do you get along with other people? When you're with other people, do you lift them up? Do you make them feel good? Do you make them laugh? Do you brighten their day? Or do you put people down? Do you bully? Do you tease? Do you try to one-up them and make yourself look cooler by making them not look so cool? That makes you look like an idiot, I think. So lift people up, compliment people, try to be positive. Like Louis Bellson. If I had a 6th song, it'd probably be a Louis Bellson song, Skin Deep, from Duke Ellington's album, where Louis was the first double bass drummer on record. But anyway, Louis always, the glass was half full to Louis Bellson. He was always looking at always look at the bright side of Aaron. No? Okay, anyway. I'm old. I have old references. But be good to others and try to lift people up. And thank you for joining me on this DW playlist party. I am so honored that I still have that very first DW double pedal. And that was 1982, okay? So it was a long time ago. But I've got lots of great DW double pedals now. And I'm just so honored to be part of this. I want to thank Jules Thomas very much for inviting me. She's a great friend and a great drummer and a great woman. And I want to thank her for inviting me and putting this all together and having it go so smoothly. I want to thank Kevin for doing the sound, Aaron Rudin for being here to help me. Both Kevin and Aaron are fantastic drummers as well. And I want to thank all of you for watching. So thank you so much. And hope to see you soon. Peace and love, and see you next time. God bless.